Thanks for joining us. I'm Lorelei Schmaio. We're Metaphysical Empowerment and Wellness Events. We host events throughout the Northwest in 4 cities, Seattle, Portland, Salem, and Eugene. We interview our readers, healers, and vendors so you get to know who we are before you come to an event. I'm here today interviewing Xavier Lu. Xavier, welcome.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
Great to have you. Please share with us a bit about what you do and what people can experience at the fairs.
Sure. So I'm what's generally known as a channel. So I allow a collection of beings, or collective of beings, by the name of Gujan to speak through me, allowing them to provide wisdom and information of various sorts that hopefully people will find helpful and bring some ease to their existence in this physical existence that we're going through right now, which is obviously a very tumultuous time in many ways. So I just sort of step aside and they use my knowledge of the here and now, the culture and the language to be able to engage with whoever wishes to speak with them. And at the fair, just be offering opportunity to speak with them for a short time to give people a sense of what they're like. They particularly like to help people to connect with their own wisdom. We're all channels. We all have a connection with a higher source. And for some people, they find that they're actually answering their own questions as they ask them. And so it's part of what they're doing, isn't it? Even though they're speaking through me and there's this physical presence, they're sort of helping to create sort of an energetic atmosphere that allows people to just, as I said, connect to their own wisdom. So hopefully people will get a chance to experience that if they were to stop at my booth.
Can you say a few different things, however you want to address these? I'm thinking about, what are you experiencing when this is happening? Mm-hmm. And also, do people come with they typically come with specific questions, or how does the session start? What is it like?
For myself, there's, I just ask them to come forward basically. And, I feel sort of this rising up in my chest, and then I just feel their presence. And as I said, I sort of step aside, though I'm also conscious of what's happening. And somebody will ask a question and I have to admit, I don't fully understand it myself, but someone will ask a question and sometimes they'll sort of ask me what the answer is, even though they have access to the information that I have access to. So, so then I'll just relay the information to them in a more, what I would say, a more conscious way, like mentally, and they'll then share that information with whoever they're speaking with. So it's a very pleasant feeling to be having them speak through me. It's very light and warm, and that's sort of they tend to like to be a bit humorous. I think they like to try to help people to relax and be at ease. So, and I think there was another part to your question I've forgotten.
Well, it's great. So people at a fair, for example, what things are they drawn to particularly, and do they come with specific questions, or how does that typically unfold?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Some people, most people, I guess I would say, have specific questions. Wanting to know details about a loved one or about their future. So they do try to kind of stay away from predicting people's future because we're here to experience the unfolding in this physical lifetime. So they don't want to give too much away. But people ask specific questions also about the cosmos in general. How is this all laid out? How's it all made up? And sometimes people will just say, do you experience any specific message for me? So the questions run the gamut, really.
Mm-hmm. Great. And what is the difference between the sessions that you do at a fair and the sessions you do in private? It sounds like the length is different, and are there other aspects that are different?
Sure. The length, I think, would be the biggest difference. I mean, in in a fair setting, I try to keep it to maybe 10 or 15 minutes at the most, because I think that gives somebody a good idea of what Gujan will bring to the table, without, but at the same time letting somebody else come in and sit down and have the experience. I found with time, with the longer time, you can get into more details, more specifics, and especially for those people who have established something of a relationship with them, you just they start finding ways to just help somebody that they may not have thought of for themselves. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. Just the longer the relationship is, and it's interesting to be aware that sometimes, people will have a relationship with Gujan and they don't really know me at all. So, and I'm just sort of there. I'm the vessel. And that's perfectly fine.
And how did you first start doing this?
Well, I first connected to channeling maybe 20 years ago through a friend who had someone come to his house and channel for a group of us. And then I went and had an individual session, and that's kind of where it was for many years. And then I read The Nature of Personal Reality by Seth, one of the Seth books, if you're familiar with Seth. He was a...
I'm not, yeah, share a little.
Jane Roberts channeled Seth in the 60s, 70s, maybe into the 80s a bit. And they're fairly well known in channeling circles. And I had started going to my friend who was the channel now regularly to meet with the beings that she channeled, and that just continued for some time. And then I realized that I would be curious to have this experience, and so I actively pursued it myself for just a few months. Actually, before one day I was just sitting at my laptop, I think maybe looking at basketball scores, and suddenly I felt something, and it was just this kind of rising up, kind of from my base energy, almost like if you think about a time lapse of a flower coming up out of the ground and blossoming. I just felt it in my chest, and there they were, and they introduced themselves to me, and we've been in contact ever since. And that was probably about 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm. That's great. It's great. You spoke about, I think, an awareness around your chest a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's interesting. I imagine everyone experiences channeling differently. Is yours particularly around your chest, or is that common? Or
that's a very good question. I can't speak to other people's experiences exactly. I've never asked that. That's interesting that I haven't. But I for myself, it's very kind of, yes, sort of chest, solar plexus focused in that particular, or I should say heart, solar plexus focused, mm-hmm. in that particular area that when they're present, whether it be that they're channeling or that I'm just sort of communing with them, that's where I experience them. Mm-hmm. The sensation that I have is there. Mm-hmm. Yes. And it's just like I said, it's light and warm and easy and fun.
And people ask questions about a whole range of topics. Do you have any particular areas that you specialize in, or it's just everything?
Well, I think that they particularly enjoy mm-hmm. answering questions about the nature of existence, with the intention of helping people to keep their consciousness not so narrowly focused just on the here and now, because existence is so much larger. We come into this lifetime and we sort of put on blinders and we look just in this very narrow spectrum of the totality of existence. And they're just here to sort of help remind people that, hey, there's a lot more going on, that this is just one brief stop, and not to take it all so seriously. And I think if that's that's essentially everything summed up that they tell somebody. That's what they're trying to achieve. It's just to make things a little bit easier here for those of us who have our blinders on.
That's great. And how can people get in touch with you and them outside the fairs?
Sure, sure. So I don't have a big online presence yet. That will probably change at some point. So I don't have a website, but I can certainly be connected to through my cell phone, which the number is 802-372-1947, and through email, and that the email address is Xavier, Xavier _LU @yahoo.com.
Great. Great.
And I can do online sessions or in person, or as I said, groups. Anything to help people to have access to just these wonderful, insightful beings.
Well, it's great, Xavier. Thank you so much. And
yeah, thank you too. I really appreciated the chance to speak with you.
You're welcome. And for all of you watching, you can learn more about us at MetaphysicalEmpowermentEvents.com. We have a new website up. We look forward to seeing you at our fairs. Thanks again.
Mm-hmm.